Yes, Kavita, we should continue the class.
Okay.
So one more thing before proceeding, have you got any success on your installation side?
Yes. Finally, today I got, but I mean, it got installed, but I saw one error message. It, let me tell you what it is.
Okay, so if you are comfortable with your screen sharing, then we can.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm changing the presentator. Have you got the request? Yes, I can
Yeah.
see.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, I can.
Yeah. So this one I got error. Reporting service manager failed.
Okay, so the and all were the success, but you got only one as a field. This reporting
Yes.
services. Okay, so
Yeah.
no issues. I think you have everything installed, but obviously there will be some issue or there will be some error in your uh, SSRS side. Okay, so let's
Actually, I
first
got this error also first. Then I tried it again, so I got that one. I mean, it got installed, but I got that.
update information setting for this. No issues because you have successfully installed SSIS and AS, and but obviously in some part of SSRS you will face some issues. Okay, so click on the
Okay.
connection. Click to connect when you try to
Uh,
connect to a new server.
Here?
Yes, try to connect to your local DB again. Disconnect it or connect it again.
Okay. Right click and connect.
No, there is a icon on
Oh yeah,
top.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, connect and to the analysis services.
Okay.
Okay, so you have analysis services. Try to connect. Okay, it will throw an error. But it should
One
not take
error.
this much time. Ideally, it should not take this much time. Okay,
Oh,
so
okay.
let's wait for the error. Okay, so the connection time would connect to this is okay. So can you go to the programs and where you will find SQL Server Administration Services, something like this. Uh, to the programs,
Yeah.
list of programs. Okay, so there must be some admin. Yes, here it is in the red icon from the second last. SQL Server Configuration Manager. Yes,
Mhm.
click on it.
Do I need to run this?
Yes, yes. Then hello Priyanka.
Hey Sanjay, hi.
Okay, so we are continuing with the installation part on Kavita desktop. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, Today we will start with the SSES part, but before that we are trying to configure a whole environment on Kavita's desktop. Okay, so they will give us 5 minutes. Okay,
Yeah, no problem. Please go on.
so Kavita, select from the left side, select SQL Server Services. One by one, go to yes, here it is. So here we have analysis services and it is running. Okay, and right click on it. Right click
Okay.
on SQL Server Analysis Services, and not to that part, in the middle window.
Yeah. This one?
Yes, right click on it. I just want to check the name. Properties means what is the name of this server? Login advanced. Okay. Hold a second. Go back to this analysis services. Close this window. Go to
This
analysis
one?
services. Go to the management studio. Try to connect again. And there I should just provide the server name as a dot. Analysis services.
What should I
Provide,
provide here?
just type, put it a dot there because we know it's a local.
Dot? Yeah,
Because
connect.
yes, we should connect. Okay, now you got connected to the analysis services. Okay, so here you will find like there is an icon here next to the analysis services. Okay, so this sign or something is in blue with the green but icon there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that represents the your server is running in tabular mode. Okay,
Okay.
or if it is running in the multi-dimensional mode, then there you will see a cube. Okay,
Oh,
a
okay.
simple square cube, and
Okay.
click on the databases. Okay, so obviously we do not have any database. Okay, so we will try to create. Okay, so I will stop your screen sharing, and now, oh, one more thing, have you installed that Visual Studio part, the second
Yeah.
software?
It's downloading, so
Okay, no issues. So just install that also. So I
mm,
think you have finished first hurdle. So this one is the
yeah.
main part. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now you can after installing that Visual Studio, you can work on. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. So is it visible to all?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I will discuss about this whole business intelligence involvement. Okay. So as you can see here, we are up to this second database icon. Okay. So we can have a data source from different file formats, from the database, from files, or from any sync file. Okay. So we will extract that data to a database, SQL database, and that we call as a staging database. Okay, so we will just create a dumping site where we will use SSIS to extract data from different sources, and simply we will dump that data into a database, and that database we call as a staging database. Obviously, why we are fetching data from different sources, because we obviously we will try to create a data warehouse. Okay, which means a data warehouse is obviously the name is suggesting it's a warehouse. It will have whole data, historical data. Okay, so obviously we will not say in first step we will not fetch the data directly into the data warehouse, but we will first create all we will store the data in a database where we call that database as a staging database, and after that we apply some rules like which column we want actually for our analysis or for further processing. So suppose from source we extracted 20 columns, but for our further analysis and reporting we need only 10 columns. So obviously we will extract 40 columns from the file to the staging, and from staging to the data warehouse we will only take the required columns or the required data to our data warehouse. We will remove the garbage, or we will apply the rules, okay, while creating the data warehouse. And obviously in our data warehouse we will have small parts, which means that subset or a sub data warehouse, we call that as a data mart. Okay.
Okay.
After this thing, which means we are good with this thing. So up to this data warehouse, we need only SSIS thing. Okay. So we can achieve this part of creation of data warehouse using SSIS, which means obviously we are just transporting data from source to staging, and from staging to and this data warehouse. Okay, so obviously there are some rules, there will be some required column selection, and that we can do or achieve by using SSIS. So up to now we can do this. Okay, so what comes next? So suppose we have all data in our data mart or in our data warehouse. So we want to analyze that data, which means we will process that data so that to extract some meaningful information. Okay, so what was the previous year sales, what was the year over year growth, what was the KPIs and different angles for the business users. Okay, so obviously suppose there are millions billions of record. Obviously suppose if a company is running from last 25 years, then that company will have more data and the row count will be in billions. Okay, so for that we will have a very big data warehouse. Okay, but to analyze on that data, which means we will have billions of rows, billions of records, we cannot simply extract the information using T-SQL statement. Or yes, obviously we can extract, but for that, uh, to extract that information, it will take more time, which means it can take more than hours. Okay, so suppose we want to like a sum of sales or percentage of change, which means what was the percentage sales last year or what was the percentage sales this year. Okay, so for this kind of information, we cannot simply write a SQL statement and try to build a report on that. Yes, we can, but that will take hours to compile. That will take hours to bring the result in SQL itself, because obviously there are billions of records. Okay, so how we will achieve this, which means we will now be processing the data. Okay, so processing means we will model the data. Modeling means we will just create a small subset of data, and that we call as a queue, and there we will have a required information, which means suppose we are going to analyze data according to the sales, then we will extract the data from the data warehouse and keep that data in our queue that will have only sales data. And suppose you want to analyze the data, HR data, human resource data, then you will extract accordingly data from the data warehouse. Okay, and after extracting the data from the data warehouse, we will create a queue. Queue means we will pre-prepare the business information. Like suppose if you want year over year comparison, so we will pre-calculate that calculation inside that queue. So suppose there is a there will be a new column like year over year something. Okay, so in reporting, a user will simply select that a column or that measure, and you will have the result. So it will take minutes to extract the information. Okay, so now you understand like why we need this queue. Queue is a processing environment. Okay, so obviously we have two modes. Here we have multidimensional and one will have tabular mode. So obviously the first one is the multidimensional, which means first in our environment, I think in around 2000, in 2007 and 2005, multidimensional cube came into an existence. Okay, so Microsoft started releasing what we call multi-dimensional queue with SQL Server 2005, and now we are having a tabular mode that came in 2010, which means SQL Server uh, package, whole SQL Server Enterprise Editions uh, contains two modes. First one is a multi-dimensional, obviously that came in 2005, and in the newer version came in 2010. Okay, so why we have the second version? Obviously, the processing power of this second version is very good. Okay, and yes, there are some disadvantages of this newer version, and that the newer version is tabular. So the tabular can process data quickly, but it cannot handle very big data. Which means if you have 100 billions or 100 millions of record, then you cannot process that data inside tabular. For that kind of data, which means if you have very large data, then for you need to have multidimensional. But if you have small cubes, which means if you have very data that are organized in small parts, like you have created small cubes for HR, small cube for salespersons, small cube for marketing. So in that case, we can have this tabular, and the performance of tabular cube is very good. The good means it can give you a results in very quickly. The reason behind it is, so when you talk about the back engine of this cube, so there are two engines behind it. When we are working with the multi-dimensional cube, there we will store the whole data in disk space. Okay, and when we are working with the multi-dimensional, so what the multi-dimensional does is it keeps all the data inside RAM memory. Obviously, the I/O speed, the reading speed of RAM, which means whenever we have data in our memory, then obviously we will have a very good speed of retrieving data. But if you have data into your disk drive, obviously that will have very slow data read write. Okay, so the querying data from the disk drive is slower than the querying data from the memory part. Okay, so the back engine of this tabular is new concept came into an existence in 2010, and that we call as in-memory analytics. Okay, so the next uh, concept of processing data came into an existence, and that we call as in-memory analytics. Okay, so have you got a rough view of why we need cube, both of you?
I have a question actually.
Mm-hmm.
Why you need a cube? Can't you pull the data from direct data warehouse?
Yes, yes, you can. But suppose you have billions of record, and the report. Suppose you are presenting your report to your CEOs or some higher level of business person. So that will not wait for hours to check your result. Okay, so because SQL will extract, but SQL, suppose you are simply selecting star from table, that will be very quick. But if you are selecting count divided by something and you are calculating a measure, that will take more time. Okay, so first SQL will extract the data, and then then the SQL will apply your calculations. Okay, so that kind of work will take more time in your SQL query. But if you have kept your data in this queue, then the queue will have very high speed of what you can say, high speed of data information extraction, and you can pre-prepare the measures. Like measures, what we call measures is like uh, if you want like total sales. Okay, so you will prepare a total sales in this queue, and if you want to slice that total sales by year, you can very quickly slice. If you want total sales by some product category, then you can very easily do that. Okay, so the querying, which means you can, into the next slice I will make it clear.
Yeah, so it is not necessary to have a cube for particular report, right? I mean, for
Yes, yes, exactly.
yeah, okay.
As you can see in this diagram also, you can have report directly from the data warehouse as well from the cube. It is not
So
fixed requirement.
okay, so the cubes will be prepared or created for the reports which will take longer time and which has more millions of records.
Yes, which means you, if you have very big data, then you need, it's better recommended to have a queue. Okay,
Okay.
and obviously in the queue we will have very tight security, which means you can provide high level of security data. Obviously, a salesperson with a salesperson, you don't want to share the business what we call a dollar value. Okay, so you want to share the dollar value information with the required person only. You do not want to share the financial information to your salesperson. So those kind of securities are very easily created in this queue. Okay.
Okay.
So as per the security, as per the processing power, if you require that, then you can have the queue. Okay, but if it is not required, you have very less data and you want a queue on small data, then you can have that directly from your data warehouse. There is no need to of a queue. Okay, but in our whole business intelligence package, we have SSIS and ES, and ES is a analysis services, which means there we will have a queue, and in the end we will have the SSRS, which means the reporting part. So the SSRS can access data from this data warehouse as well as from the queue. It can access data from both the sources. It depends on your requirement, or it depends on the data size, and obviously if you it depends on the business requirement.
Okay.
Okay, so you got roughly idea about the why we need queue and what the queues are.
Yes.
Okay. So now, so and day after day, you will have a very good idea on it, why we need it.
Okay.
Okay. So next, I have here a quick, uh, what we call it as a graphical representation of a cube. Okay. So earlier, whenever you are retrieving data from the SQL server, that we call as a OLTP, online transactional process. Okay, and if we have data in SSES, that we call as the, and when we are retrieving data from the queue, and we call that as a OLAP, which means online analysis process. Okay, so whenever you are querying to this queue, then you will have an analysis process, and when you are trying to access data from that SQL service, that we call as a transactional process. Okay. The transactional analysis, which means if you are querying to analysis, then you will have very big data transaction. Okay, and when you are having a transactional OLTP, then there you will have a high number of transactions, but the data size is very small. Okay, so leave that for now. Okay, so here we have three tables, as you can see in the right side. Okay, you have product, suppliers, and category. Okay, so suppose like we have a first table product, we have a table that contain details about the product. Okay, obviously each and every product will have a supplier, and if each product will have a category. Okay, so we have this table. This you can say the first table, and these two are the secondary tables. So these are the primary and these are the secondary. And the secondary are the details of the primary table, which means if you have a product, okay, suppose you have a product called a phone you have a product, so that phone, for that product, which means if you have phone, that you for that phone you will have supplier, and for that phone you will have a category. Okay, so what these two tables are the dimension, which means it are describing the fact table, which means it are in this secondary tables are describing the primary table, and this primary table we call as a fact, which means it contains the factual data. And if you have, you can see on this secondary data, these are the dimensions, which means it are further describing the fact information which we are having in this product. So suppose if you have Samsung mobile, then you will have a for that Samsung mobile you will have a supplier, and for that Samsung mobile you will have a category here, and that category can be the mobile product. Okay, so have you got the point, like what are the dimension and what are the facts? Okay, I haven't come to this next diagram.
Okay.
Okay, so in this way, this product is the main primary table, fact table, and the second two tables, like supplier and category. These are not the primary, these are not the fact, these are the details about the fact table. And the details we call that as a dimensions. Okay, so for to be on more precise, suppose this product table is a cube. Okay, so what here we have this dimension, suppose this dimension we call as a uh, category dimension. So in the first layer, from the this first layer, I just watch my arrow. Okay, so this first layer will contain all the products that are related with confections, and the second in the same way, and the last is the beverages. Okay, so these lines will contain a dimension, and that dimensions are like category dimensions. Okay, in the same way, when you come to this vertical line, so you can call this as a time dimension. If you have a timetable, that for the same queue you can have the upper layer as a January, second as a February. So in the same way, we are describing the exact the same cube, but in the different dimension. Here we are describing the same cube as a with the time dimension, and in the upper top layer we are describing the same cube with the category dimension. Are you getting the point? Like what are dimension and what are the fact?
Yes.
Okay, so in the same way, but actually in the backend the data is not stored like this in this graphical representation. They are stored like the same as a table format, as you can see in the right left side. Okay, so you will have these kind of tables in the queue, and they are related with some IDs. Okay, so there must be a relation between these two tables. So this product ID, you will have supplier ID here, and that supplier ID will be connected to the supplier ID of the supplier table. So suppose there is a row with mobile, Samsung mobile, so that will have a supplier ID, which means from which supplier you will get that Samsung mobile, and that from that information, suppose we have supplier ID 1. So when you go back to the supplier ID, you will have a in supplier table, you will find a detail about supplier ID 1, and that ID 1 will more give you information like what is the company name, who is the contact person, and all. In the same way, you will connect this category with the product ID. Sorry, with the category ID. Here you will have in product table, you will have a category ID, and that will be further connected to the category table with category ID table, category ID column. Okay, so in the same way, so how these things are connected with this mean fact table, and that or the product table. So these are the dimensions of how they are connected, and they are connected with some ID column. As I think you are familiar with primary key and foreign key of the simple relational databases.
Yes.
So these are the same thing.
Yeah. Here I have a question. So in the
Mhm.
relational database, there is like product and supplier and category tables. But in the
Mhm.
cube, I can see it is like time dimension. So is
So
that
that
better?
table is mentioned. So there you will have a date key, and there you will have a date dimension table. So
So
that date dimension is missing in the diagram.
okay. And for instance, there are like 5 tables. So
Mhm.
for all 5 tables, this cube is not possible, right?
Yes, so do not think like the cube will have only 3 dimensions. Okay, so this cube is a graphical representation like how we can define the cube. Okay, so
Okay.
in cube we can have more than 3 dimensions. Okay, so in that case you cannot represent that cube by this example. Okay.
So, now if supplier there is supplier table, right? So where can you put that table in the queue? I mean, in what format it will store the data, or it generally use this primary key and foreign key relationship and it will get the data.
Yes, it will. They are the different tables, but how they are linked with this primary key and foreign key thing. Okay.
Okay.
So do not take this cube as an example for further description. Okay. So these are like introduction about cube. So if you have more than 5 dimension table and one product table, which is one fact table, then they all are connected with this fact table with some ID. Each dimension table will have a primary key column, and that we call a ID. And the primary key obviously will contain a distinct value. Okay. I think there are so many doubts in your mind, but when we start working on it, so then you will have a.
No, no, I'm confused with this cube. I don't have any idea about this cube. So I thought like, the storing of those data will be
No, no,
done.
it has nothing to do with the storing, the like the data will be stored like this 3D cube. Okay,
Okay.
so this cube is like to explain like how the cube you can think of.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So obviously, if you have more than 3 dimension, then this cube will not fit for that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all.
So we will start with a demo again, which means it's better to have a real-time working than this theoretical part. So now you got introduction about why we need cube and how the cube are. Okay, and for how we can think of cube, how the graphical representation is. But do not think like in the back end you will have cube like in 3 dimension. Okay,
Okay.
so it's just a graphical representation to explain.
Okay.
Okay, so coming to the next. So now we will start working with how today we will have a look like how to create a basic cube. And if you have Adventure Works database, just Google on some net, and there you will find a Adventure Works data warehouse database. So try to restore that database into your SQL Server. Click on new project. Today we'll look at like how to create a simple cube in analysis services. So when we click on this project, when you have installed that business intelligence part, then you will get this, and there you will find analysis services, and here you will have different options. So you have to import from server. So select this. We want to create a project on it. Okay. So there are different things also you can import from server. If you have already deployed some cube, then you can import data from that cube also. If you have something from the Excel itself, Excel is also a small analysis server. Okay. Okay. So in Excel, if you have Excel 2013, then you can have this a small tabular cube inside that Excel itself. Okay, so these are the options for different sources, but for now we will have this. Name it something. Click OK. Now it will ask you like to do some rough work or to do some development work. I need a scratch pad, which means a scratch pad of analysis services or analysis service instance. Okay, so if you have analysis services installed, then only you can further go. Okay, so as you have installed analysis services and you have tested it with SQL Server Management Studio, then only you can proceed with this project. Okay, so it is taking more time. Okay, so here you need to provide your server name with which server, with which analysis server you want to continue. So obviously I will use my local host. So test connection. So it is saying test is successful. Click OK. So to check, uh, so select this analysis services to your local connect. Then you will see like in your database you will have a temporary table name. As we named that project with sample tabular, and now you have a temporary database here. Okay, so this project has created a simple rough queue inside that analysis services. Okay. and here you, in this environment you will have the model name. So inside a cube you will have model, and the model, why we call it like it's a as in analysis services, which means in cube development, we what we do is we model the data, which means we pre-prepare the measures, or we pre-prepare the uh, business views. Okay, so for that what we are doing actually is we are modeling the data. Okay,
Okay.
so that's why you will find something with this name model.bim. As we were having packages in SSIS, in the same way we will have one model only in a tabular project. You cannot have more than one model inside a tabular project. Okay, so here in the same way, now we will connect to a table. Here you will find a um, database icon, and for that you will use to import the data. Okay, so for now I'm going to get data to this queue from the SQL server. Next, I will use my local database, and now you can have from which database you want to fetch the data. So let's take again Northwind for now, but tomorrow I will install that data warehouse of AdventureWorks. So for further queue processing, we will use AdventureWorks. So here you will provide some more information like with which credential you will connect to your data source. So provide it. Select list of tables, or you can write a query also. Let's take this order. So when you select anything, you have option of select related table. So whichever table is connected with this order or order detail, that will be automatically selected. So leave it for now. I will take any one table. Orders, finish. We will do it again and again, so do not worry about it. Let's take a quick walk on the cube preparation.
Okay.
Obviously, we will do the same process again and again for different kind of work. Actually, what we are doing is we are extracting data from our data warehouse to the queue. So we are in this phase. So we have data warehouse, and we will import data from data warehouse to the queue. Okay, so we are in this phase. So close. So now we have all the tables. Okay, so as I was talking into the diagram, like here we will not have data in cube like this, but we will have data like this tabular format, and in the diagram you can see like this. So let's go to the cube. Here you will have an option when you click on this diagram view, where there is a right bottom corner. So now you will find like these in our diagram view of. Okay, so like this only the data will be stored in our cube, not to that 3D dimension. Okay, so here you can have product ID. So let's deal with this table first, because there should be some product ID with this. Okay, so now we are not having. So so whatever we will do in this cube is we call that as a modeling of data. Okay, Okay, so these two tables are connected, and for this order table is a fact, and for that fact we have a dimension here, the zippers. Okay, so for each order you will have a zipper. Okay,
Okay.
and now switch back to the data view, and here you can like if you want, and what I was talking about, like you can create measures, like suppose you want count of orders we got up to now. Okay, so simply double click on this. So these you will see here a gray line. Okay, gray line between this table and with this. So this area we call as a table data, and this data we call as a field region. Okay, so here we will create a measure, which means measure. Why we call measure means a business view. Suppose a user will always ask like count of orders. So let's create a measure in this field page, and that we call as a count. As you can see in the formula bar, there you will have count of, you name that measure as count of orders, and here we use the DEX formulas. Okay, so obviously we will have a basic introduction about like how we will write, or how can we write a DEX function, or how can we write formulas. So let's have a count. So if you are familiar with Excel formula, then you can easily learn the DEX formula.
Okay.
So how will you count the orders? Just by counting the order ID. If you count the order ID, which means you will have that much of orders. So what here we are doing in this measure, we have created a measure, and that measure is count of orders, and what we are doing in that measure is we are counting the order ID. So till now we got some 830 orders, and further we can slice this orders with any dimension, like we can further bifurcate on some zipper, or with some date, or some with month here also. Okay, so I will just guide you like how we will so we can analyze this data inside an Excel. So for quick, as you can see here, there is an icon of Excel, analyze in Excel. Click OK. So now we can have this data. Are you familiar with the pivot tables of Excel?
Yeah, somewhat. I never did
Okay,
that, but
so to analyze the data of this, you can analyze or connect the Excel. So when we click here, so we have created a measure here, count of orders. So select this. So it is saying like we got 830 orders. So you can now further bifurcate it, like uh, what was the ship city, which means from which city you got how many orders. So very quickly you can bifurcate that 830 to the ship cities. Okay, and if you want the ship country, then again you can have. Okay, so in the same way, what we created a measure, and on that measure we are just bifurcating, or we are slicing that measure on different dimensions, like with ship city, with ship country. Okay, so come back to the queue. So we have created this. In the same way, you can have different measures according to the requirement, like year over year comparison, what is the change of percentage. So it depends on the business requirement, say what, like what they want. And in the same way, you can have KPIs, like key performance indicators. So suppose if you have you want something like this, if from a country, suppose from any city, let's remove this shape country. So suppose from any city, if you are getting order more than 10, then create a green icon here. And if it is less than 10, then create a red icon for that. So you can have indicators, which means what we call that as a key performance indicators. Okay, so these kind of works are only possible through this queue, not from any other tool. Okay, so in the future classes we will see like how to work with all these things. Okay, so now you got like how to create a queue, what is queue, and how we will be creating a sample project.
Yes.
Okay, so my today's task was to make you comfortable with what is queue, why we need queue, and how we will create a sample queue. Just a quick guide or go through on this analysis queue creation, tabular queue creation. Okay, so obviously we will be very frequently switching with this diagram view. We will have one fact table with different dimension. Obviously, you were talking about if you have 5 dimension, obviously, then you cannot fit that 5 dimension to that cube. Okay, so obviously that cube was only for the graphical representation, not for the actual. But in actual, you will have like this. So if you have more than one table, so obviously in that you will have one fact and with different dimension, and that will connect it using some primary or foreign key, or you can create a relationship here also. If you suppose there are no relationship here, so but you know like how these two tables are connected, so you can simply drag and drop, or you can create a relationship between these tables. So as you know, like these two tables are connected on shipper ID. So customer employee, how it was connected earlier. Okay, so I think I got some confusion here. Like earlier, it was not connected properly as the shipper ID column is not there. But suppose if shipper ID is there, suppose this customer ID is shipper ID, so you can simply connect with this. Okay, so simply dragging and dropping with the things you can create. But you should know like there should be some prior knowledge like between these two tables, you know, like this shipper ID is related with the this table thing. Okay, so this is something with primary and foreign key information of the tables which we are having in our data warehouse. Okay, so from tomorrow we will start working with the data warehouse, and for that data warehouse you can download from the net that we call as AdventureWorks DW.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do that. Okay.
Okay, so tomorrow I think I don't have that database in my SQL server. I will also install. Okay, so in future we will continue with working on Q with the source as a AdventureWorks data warehouse.
Okay.
Okay,
So, like,
so
daily, when is the class actually?
it
When
will be around between. It will start between 1:30 to 2 p.m. 2 for
I.
IST.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
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 So it will be between. It will if you think it will be delayed, but it can be delayed up to half an hour only. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I'm not able to, join on the exact time because, like, I called them. They told me that I have to join after at 1:45 something. So then again they
Mm-hmm.
called at 1:15 and they told me to join. So I was confused.
No, so John, do not. You can ignore partially, but obviously I will be available after 1:30 only, not before that.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Okay. So you can have in your mind like after 1:30 only we will have the class.
1:30
Okay.
IST. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
will get a call before.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Okay. Okay
Yeah.
then. Bye bye.
I take care.